Hi, everyone. I'm going to give a talk on this topic, resist the disease or tolerate it. And it's all happening in a host parasite setting. So the hosts are trying to protect themselves from the disease or the parasite in particular. And they use two mechanisms, resistance and tolerance to do this. I'll define host, parasites, and the two defense mechanisms of host, that is the tolerance and resistance. Sorry, and uh, and how resistance and tolerance works in a host parasite system, and how these varies with respect to other ecological parameters, and we focus on which of these two strategies wins, that is, which of the resistance and tolerance is higher in different scenarios or under different ecological conditions. Let's get started by defining host, parasites, and their interactions. Host, host is an organism that supports the growth of another small organism, which is called the parasite. So this parasite it's dependent on the host to survive and to grow, and it uses host to achieve its metabolism, and it usually lives on or inside or within the host organism, and it meet the host, it can enter it, it spreads and can grow within it. So this is important to study because it can damage the host in a number of ways. That is by causing a loss of fertility, that is reproduction, or increasing the death rate, mortality. So it's important to study these interactions. And these are some practical examples of host parasite systems. You might have heard about ticks, fleas, and lice. There are some examples of parasites that typically live on the body surfaces of many animals, such as dogs, cats, and cattle. And, uh, and then there are some kind of worms or bacteria, such as the tapeworms, hookworms, and nematodes. They live inside the host body and sometimes human also, and they uses the host body to obtain their food and everything. So in this picture, you see that the ticks and fleas are having a picnic on the dog's head, and they are using his body to get their food and to have their picnic. And in the second picture, this is tea leaf, Labrador tea leaf, and it's infected by rust fungi parasite. So therefore, you see these red spots on it. So when parasite attack the host, what do hosts do to protect themselves from this infection, and what are their usual defense mechanisms? As I mentioned earlier, resistance and tolerance are two ways to fight these parasites. And what are the key differences between these two strategies? In resistance, host fight the parasite directly. It can stop the parasite attack, or it can stop the parasite growth within a host, or it can just avoid the parasite. And tolerance, on the other hand, is kind of clear from its name. So it tries to tolerate the damage that the parasite have made to the host. So it minimizes the damage that infection causes. So the key difference is that the resistance can restrict the growth of parasite, but tolerance need not do that. And it can actually increase the growth of parasite. So it can be like, if you're more tolerant to the infection, then you develop like more parasite growth within yourself. Uh, and, and this one is a simple diagram that shows how resistance and tolerance act on a one host, one parasite system. So this green one is the host, this is a parasite, and it's trying to attack the host. So what resistance will do, it will try to directly fight the parasite and by either avoiding, or there are several methods. And tolerance, so the parasite have already done some damage to the host, and this tolerance, as a defense, it will try to reduce that damage that this parasite have done already. To make it even more clear, I give an example of plants that is a resistant, a susceptible, and tolerant plant. So the first one, you see that this plant has resistance as defense. So the insects or the parasite, they are trying to, they try to reach the plant and damage it, but they could not. It made them go away because it has resistance. The second one, it is susceptible. So it neither has resistance, neither or not tolerance as defense. So it's like unprotected plant. So the parasites, they easily climbed on it and they damage the leaves and the fruits, and they are enjoying it there or whatever. And the third one, so third one is a tolerant plant. That is, it has tolerance to the infection. So you can see that they already reached, the parasite already reached the plant, climbed on it, but they are not able to do any damage to the plant. So the leaves are healthy and the fruits are healthy as well. So the plant is in a good condition still. And some practical example of how resistance and tolerance can evolve, particularly in plants. So resistance can evolve in the form of certain barriers to infection, such as such as the thickening of the skin or using some surface chemicals to avoid the parasite attack or to protect themselves, or leaf hairs in plants. And resistance can also evolve as some process that can stop the parasite growth within a host, or as some process that rapidly clear the infection. There is an infected host, they can quickly recover from the infection if they have resistance. So there are a number of ways in which resistance can evolve, and tolerance has the same too. For instance, in some plants, tolerance can evolve as increased concentration of chlorophyll on the leaves, or they can increase the size of their leaves, or they can increase the number of branches, or even they can increase their nutrient intake. That is, they can be more healthy, and so they are like more tolerant to, or more healthy to control this damage. And what is interesting about the evolution of defense, you could say, like, why don't the host just evolve defense and protect themselves from the infection? That is because it's not that easy, as defense is costly in terms of other things. So the presence of these costs, they reduce the benefits of evolving high levels of defense, resistance and tolerance, for instance. And developing defense restrict other abilities of host, such as their ability to recover or reproduce, which is not good for the host, of course. So how do you determine how much defense you can have so that you don't have to pay too many costs for this? So this is usually determined by a trade-off function between the, this is a trade-off between the benefits of defense and the cost associated with it. And not just that, evolving one defense mechanism can be costly in terms of investment in another strategy. So it means that if you have, suppose if you have more tolerance to the infection, then you need not have much resistance to the infection, but sometimes you need both to survive. And actually I have based my work on this assumption, the fourth one, this kind of cost in the host system. So these are some of the assumptions and objectives. As I said, tolerance and resistance both can evolve in a number of ways. So here I assume that tolerance, that it reduces the deaths that infection is causing. It is usually called as mortality tolerance. And resistance, it reduces the chances of getting infected or the susceptibility of getting infected. It is called as avoidance. So the susceptible host, they can avoid the infected host like that. And additionally, I also assume that resistance and tolerance, they are negatively correlated by a trade-off. So it means that if you increase tolerance, then you need not have, the resistance will decrease, and the vice versa is true as well. And we study the simultaneous evolution of these two defense strategies in a host population where they are negatively correlated by such a trade-off function. And to do to study this evolution, I have used adaptive dynamics framework, and my focus is to make predictions on which of these two strategies is favored under different ecological conditions. So let's give a small, very brief theory on adaptive dynamics. Adaptive dynamics. It's a way to track the long-term evolution of a trait value. For instance, tolerance and resistance here, and it is happening through small mutations. And I have used the term strategy in this work. So it's nothing but a set of parameters that specifies an equilibrium for the host population. And the mutations that are happening here, they are small and rare, but can subsequently invade the original or the resident host that was already there. And the fitness term I've used here, it denotes the long-term growth rate of a particular host type or the phenotype. And as singular strategies, these are the points where evolution of a particular trait stops for a while. Let's look at my model. It's a classic SIS model. X is a susceptible host densities. Sorry, X is a susceptible host and Y are the infected host. So this this small diagram, so this X is susceptible, Y is infected host. X are reproducing at rate A. I assume here that infected hosts do not reproduce. And the natural death rate they are dying with is B, and Y is dying with an additional death rate called virulence or disease-induced mortality rate, alpha. Infection is transmitting from X to Y at rate beta. And infected host can recover at rate gamma and move into susceptible state X again. Other than that, there is crowding rate Q. This is acting on the overall host population. So it's like competition for resources. So like more hosts are available than less resources available. So it's acting on the overall host population, and it's kind of bad for the overall host population. And we model resistance and tolerance as R and tau. R is modeled as a reduction in infection transmission, and tolerance is modeled as a reduction in disease-induced mortality rate. That is, it is acting on the deaths that are happening due to disease. And as I mentioned before, I assume that resistance and tolerance, they are related by a trade-off. So I prefer to show that it's happening graphically. So you can see that if resistance increases, then tolerance will decrease. And these are just nothing but the different trade-off curvature values, the trade-off function. So they are basically related by a function, which is a very complicated in form. So that's just happening here. And let's look at some of the results. So what I have done here is I vary some parameters and then look at what happens with tolerance and resistance evolution. So this CSS investment is nothing but the stable value or the optimal investment in resistance and tolerance. So we vary them along with the lifespan of a healthy host. You can see that if lifespan increases from 0 to 100, tolerance is increasing, but resistance is decreasing. And why that happens, we'll come back to it in a bit. In this one, we have the combined effect of alpha and beta, that is the virulence and infection transmission on both tolerance and resistance investment. So these blue shades, they indicate the low values or the lower investment, and red shades, they are the values of high investment. So you can see that when alpha is high and beta is low, tolerance is low because of blue shades, but resistance is high, the red shades. So a combination of high virulence and low transmission, it will evolve low tolerance and high resistance. And third one is combined effect of recovery rate and infection transmission rate on, again, tolerance and resistance both. Same shades are indicating the same levels of defense investment, red shades high and blue shades lower. So you can see that a combination of low recovery and low transmission, it will evolve low tolerance because of blue shades here, and high resistance. So what do we conclude from these few plots? We get that a longer lived host, it has higher chances of getting infected, or if it's already infected, then chances of infecting others in its lifetime. So so when you know that you are going to be infected, so you'll try to be tolerant against the infection. So you need more tolerance to survive and to recover from the infection. And on the other hand, when virulence is high, that is, chances of dying due to infection are high. So you'll try to just avoid the infection in the first place, because you know that if you get infected, that more likely you'll die. So it's better to have more tolerance and more resistance, and low tolerance is needed. And when transmission is low, that is, not many infected and susceptible hosts are meeting. So that means they can easily avoid the infection. So even a small resistance would be sufficient to avoid the infection. So resistance is preferred in this case when transmission is low. Overall, that's why we get that a combination of high virulence, that is high death rate, and low transmission rate, it will is more likely to evolve resistance rather than tolerance. And since they are related by a trade-off, so tolerance evolved as a response to low virulence and high transmission rate. About the recovery plot, so we observed that when recovery rate is low, so it means that if you get infected, there are less chances to get recover from the infection. So it means that being infected is bad, because you cannot recover and contribute to the fitness. So again, you'll try to resist the infection rather than tolerating it. That's why we have that a combination of low recovery rate and low transmission selects for low tolerance but high resistance. So you can say that since both resistance and tolerance, they are doing the same job of protecting the host. So why do you need to differentiate and study both? It's because for looking at some particular case, evolving both resistance and tolerance at the same time, it could be redundant, because if a plant is fully resistant to the infection, it did not benefit anything from the tolerance. And a plant that is completely tolerant against the damage, it did not gain any benefit from investing in resistance. Also, it's important in the context of genetic manipulation or the manual interpretation. So such as agriculture sector, where you use pesticides and everything. So enhancing investment in one defense strategy, it could be bad for the host health. For instance, increased tolerance in the absence of parasite could affect some plants adversely. And why this particular study with the trade-off between resistance and tolerance, why is this important at all? The main aim of my work is to provide theoretical evidence to the previous experimental studies that have conducted on different plant or animal species. And they have found that such a trade-off between resistance and tolerance as defense mechanism exists, really. So it's to support those work. And this is important to do that, to develop treatment of many diseases. And in agricultural sector, for instance, to select appropriate pesticides and do more things with that. So that's why it's important to study this particular trade-off thing. And these are some of the references that I have used in this work. And thank you for listening. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks a lot, Brenna.
Thank you.
And you can't see it, but yes, people are clapping.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, put them in the chat or ask to be unmuted, and I will arrange for that. And I guess I can get it started by asking, so resist the disease or tolerate it?
It's not that easy. It's rather complicated. So I mean, in a different ecological condition, like if you have high, as I said, if you have like dying more, that is the parasite is deadly. It can kill you if you're infected. So yes, you need more resistance rather than tolerance. And in a different scenario, if it's not that deadly, then you can just tolerate it and live on your life.
What about COVID then?
I think resistance is better.
Resistance is better. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Mark has a question. Let me unmute him.
Yes, please.
Mark, go for it. Maybe try again. Mark, we can't really hear you. No, something funny is happening with your mic.
No. Sorry.
No. Try again. No, right now we can't. Let me try again. Now?
No.
No, Mark, sorry. No.
Yes.
Okay, so if you type it, then I will ask it on your behalf. Sure. Okay, so while Mark is typing his question, another question that I had is, what about stability? So, I mean, your strategies are basically sets of parameters, right? So
Yeah.
how stable are the dynamics with respect to the choice of these parameters? Like if I change them a little bit, have you checked whether I see dramatically different results?
Yeah. So, when you in the model, you have to find the equilibrium, endemic equilibrium. So you do the basic thing, of course, like checking it with the basic reproduction number that the infection persists in the system. And of course, you need a stability condition that the equilibrium has to be stable by, by the basic modeling structure. So yeah, I mean, as I said, sorry, let me go to the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one. So as I have used adaptive dynamics framework to do this, and we talk about CSS investment, and there is nothing but stable strategies actually. These values, these are plotting the stable points in a sense. So yeah, so when you change it, it's still stable. So, and if you maybe like decrease the lifespan to something like lower than this particular value, it will go unstable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, this is stable in this particular range. So I have considered only that range of different parameters such as lifespan or this virulence in which the strategies, they are stable. Yeah.
Okay, and how do you determine these ranges for the parameters that induce stability?
They are checked like numerically, and we have some particular plots like PIP plot to do that. We can see that the particular strategy, it's a particular format like a CSS continuously stable strategy.
Okay.
So yeah, it's mostly done numerically and graphically also.
Oh, okay. And yeah. I guess there have been like experimental results in the literature that
yeah, they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like some of the trade-off, some similar kind of trade-off between resistance and tolerance has been found in some plant species, annual wild radish.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember the exactly the parasite term and everything, but yeah, there are some experimental evidence to support that. So this study confirms such results. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I don't know if Mark is going to type the question for everyone or maybe send it. Okay. Okay, he just did. So I'm going to read out what Mark was saying. So I liked your talk. Well done. We know that there is a symbiotic relationship between organisms, for example, clownfish and anemones. However, I wonder, when we're trying to include evolution, whether there is a delayed response which should be included in these models. For example, we are at the stage of live with the virus, but mutations are common, which may change the response of one of the host or parasite. So is there some sort of delayed response that you should include in these models?
Yeah, but thanks, Mark. Thanks for the question and the compliment. Yeah, I mean, I have not included this thing in my work, but in the model, actually, this can be done by including. I think there's a whole topic on delayed models. So there could be one extra parameter or a variable to denote that delay term actually. So maybe that could be done in this work. I have assumed that only the host is evolving, not the parasite, but there are studies on the co-evolution in which the host and parasite they co-evolve. So maybe with that it could be done. I don't have an exact answer to this because I haven't studied this delayed response in this, but I think it could be done. Yeah, so maybe I'll look at it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's thank Brenna again. And Chloe, if you're ready, when Brenna stops sharing, then you can go.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, we can also. Yeah, thanks, Brenna.
Thank you.